Hey RV family, keep it high, keep it tight. My name is Jay Morse, the Review Guy, reviewing music for the love of music, and I'm back again to bring you another video. And in this one, I'm going to be starting a new series, launching a series that I've been rolling around in my mind for a hot minute, and that is a weekly metal and rock track roundup, heavily inspired by Anthony Fantano and other music reviewers that talk about tracks. Obviously, I can't cover every single track that drops in my series track review. This isn't going to halt progress on that series, it's just going to be an add-in. This is going to span from Friday to Friday, and it's going to come out between Friday and Sunday, the videos. And also, I'm playing around with a different editing style, so let me know what you think. And also, just one more thing before we get into the video, be sure to let me know if you're curious about this series, if you want to see it continue, and if you enjoy this video to let me know, because I'd like to build on it. I really am enjoying the idea of this series, and I think it would be a good catch-up series to expose some new bands that you maybe haven't heard of, or let you know that some bands that you have heard of have dropped singles, talk a little bit about them, and it gives me a way to just quickly cycle through a lot of different singles that I can't dedicate entire videos to, so definitely let me know in the comments below. So first up, I have the Gavin Dance track Strawberry Wake off of their upcoming record Afterburner, which is just rapidly coming closer and closer and closer. I know this track was released a little bit before the threshold, but I still wanted to talk about it because I was gonna do it in a track review like I did Prisoner, but I just decided against it. Once again, this is very melodic, hyper melodic. The band is going in even more of a melodic direction than they did on Artificial Selection, and I am absolutely here for it. Super hyped for the record. Enthroned has seen fit to drop Womb of Violence, which is a bonus track from Cold Black Suns, which it's extremely ice cold. I didn't enjoy Cold Black Suns a whole lot. I wasn't head over heels for it, and I would have enjoyed the record if more of these crusted up sounds were present there, because in many ways I thought the record fell flat on many fronts, but this track is just super spicy. Check it out. Lamb of God with Memento Mori. Really loving the wake up refrain. I mean, I will be honest, I wasn't super keen on the track Checkmate. I thought that it was some of their most weak writing from a songwriting perspective by Lamb of God standards. Like, it was what they had done, but just a little bit worse, and I was a little worried considering this is a fairly large gap between this record upcoming, their self-titled, and their last album, and plus they obviously have the new drummer, and Art Cruz is not Chris Adler, but he does great. I don't think people should hold him to the standard of Chris Adler, and I think Art Cruz is a good addition to the band, really feeling those The Black Album from Metallica vibes in the introduction. It's very somber, it's very dreary. Randy Blythe's singing voice is great. It's very pummeling, and a lot of the chugging riffs remind me a lot of Checkmate and what was present on that track, but just a little bit more groovy, a little bit more crusty, and once again, that chorus, it slaps like all hell. Next up, Revenge came through with a track, Salvation Smothered, Genocide a Flock, which is from their upcoming record Strike, Smothered, Dehumanized, the follow-up to Behold Total Rejection, an absolutely blasphemous war metal record with black metal and death metal and noise influences. The thing was just off the chain in terms of production. It was one of the most chaotic things to come out that year. And in many ways, I think this record is maybe a little bit more toned down, and that's funny because it goes for the jugular. It's still so throat shredding, but I do think it's a little less noisy than what you were getting there. So if that was maybe a little bit too noisy, a little bit too chaotic, a little bit too hectic for you, then maybe this track is for you. Super excited for the record, and hopefully it is just a super, super heavy record with the great production that was present on the previous record. So next up is Krallice with The Wheel. If you enjoy Colin Marston's works and haven't checked out Krallice, I don't know why, I doubt that you haven't. This is just as experimental, out there, and odd as many of Krallice's previous albums. A lot of very mathematical but simultaneously still measured playing. Reminds me a little bit of Portal's record Ion, especially with how the vocals come off. Although I do feel like this track was a tad bit tame from Krallice's standards. A lot of times, some of the feelings of these tracks really do wow me. They really do they're breathtaking. They have something unique about them, their own identity that makes them very much stand out against the field of black metal bands that are a little bit more avant-garde. Usually they come from places like France, that's one of the hotbeds for it, and even Italy sometimes. And even though it is a bit tame, it's still a Krallice track, and Krallice always kicks ass, so I'm super excited to hear what's coming down the pipeline next. Woo! Make Them Suffer with Erase Me off their upcoming record, How to Survive a Funeral. I've said many times that I love Neverbloom. It is one of the best symphonic deathcore records and just one of the best deathcore records in general. If you want to check that out, please do. Take that recommendation and run with it, because it's a great record. record. Bukka really does kill it on the chorus of this track. It's amazing. In many ways, this is very similar to their past material, much of which was present on Neverbloom. However, I feel like this is toning down the symphonics and bringing up the melody. The symphonic elements are definitely there, but how harmonious this track is, especially with that soaring chorus, it just really does give it this sheen to it, this sparkle to it, while still retaining its heaviness. And I do want to say that it's not too intrusive how it suddenly switches from heavier bits to softer bits, especially when we're talking the chorus. It all blends in really, really well, and I'm super excited for the record. Deep Purple with Throw My Bones off the album Whoosh, which is coming up. I thought their last record, Infinite, was just okay. I think Steve isn't being utilized like he used to be. Ian's vocals are great, the dude's a fine wine, and it's insane that the band is still around. It's a groovy track, and I don't necessarily think it is super strong from a songwriting point of view, especially with the licks. I think that Deep Purple, especially in their classic years, did a lot better, and I'm not going to say that they're just treading water at this point, but I'm just happy to still be getting material from Deep Purple. It does make me really excited and really happy to see it, even if their songs aren't necessarily on the same echelon of the same caliber as their previous material. Still, nonetheless, give it a listen. So next up, Paradise Lost with Fall From Grace off their upcoming record Obsidian, which is dropping in, I believe, May. Pretty consistent with the other single that released not too long ago. I remember checking it out. Was gonna do a track review, but just decided against it. This just has a lot of low, heavy, doomy, full of sludge riffs, droning gothic melodies, plenty of downtrodden guitar licks, a drumline just trudging along, and a pretty catchy chorus all in all. Although I feel this track is a little bit restrained for my liking, because I do like it when Paradise Lost makes things sound very expansive, gives themselves a lot of space. Although I will say I appreciate that the production does sound pretty punchy on this record. I just think this isn't necessarily one of their stronger singles. Next up, Aviators, The Cinematic Future. This is a synth rock band, and I've heard quite a bit of synth rock and enjoyed it. This is just a little bit of a shout out, a recommendation, and it is a little bit idiosyncratic. This isn't going to be for everyone. I listen to quite a bit of synth rock. Starset's nice, Paris is nice, so on and so forth. Many metal bands that incorporate electronics I tend to like. Like, I enjoy a lot of electronicore bands, but this just sounds odd, and I still can't really decide if it's a good or bad thing. It seems experimental unintentionally because it's not necessarily like a lot of synth rock that I've heard nowadays, so definitely give it a listen if it does pique your interest. Igorr, Camel, Dancefloor off the upcoming record Spirituality and Distortion, I believe it's called. This strange, repeating guitar melody's pretty intoxicating, and it almost has this Egyptian flavor, sort of this Arabic twist to the way it rings out, and it's pretty mesmerizing. It's just odd, not necessarily as eclectic as some of his previous works, but definitely odd, and it does have me super hyped for this record because Igorr is always so experimental. He's always all over the place with like trip hop and electronic elements and metal elements and rock elements, and there's very few people that are doing exactly what he's doing in music right now, and I appreciate that a lot. Stumbled across this track from a band called Nemes called Der Berg, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. They're a German band. It's this whacked out story. This album's going to be following this whacked out story about a dude going up a mountain, finding a cave, finding a heart of the mountain, is reborn as a half stone creature. It's pretty sick, pretty avant-garde, pretty out there, and I do enjoy that. I like weird thematic elements, but German black metal's notoriously strange, and I feel like this has a lot of death metal influences that makes it sound quite gnarly, especially the guitar work and the bass work. Very deep end, low end frequencies coming out of this mix, and it is odd. It's not necessarily frontward facing, just blunt black metal. There's a little bit something different there. So if you like black metal that is a little bit different but still close enough to the blueprint to be accessible by fans of the genre, check it out. Symbolic, Augury of Ancients, pretty sick. I feel a bit of influence by, funnily enough, Augury, as well as the band Inferi, which even if I wasn't head over heels for Inferi's last record, I really enjoyed how melodic they made black and death metal, and that's pretty consistent here. Lots of dungeon wretches, you get some layered gutturals with them. It all amounts to a pretty nasty, fast-paced vibe. Just a very mathematically proficient, technical track. Some of these tapping riffs remind me a lot of like sci-fi influenced death metal bands. It's so all over the place, it sounds very off-kilter, it sounds super despondent, and the riffs are great. It just sounds demented. And Katatonia, Behind the Blood. Honestly, they've been through so many lineup changes that it's a miracle that they're still around. I mean, I'm really for it. This is like such an odd Katatonia track though. It has those dark rock elements, the doom metal elements, the gothic elements. It sounds like a progressive rock track from hell. The riffs aren't necessarily super memorable and are a little bit forgettable compared to some of Katatonia's past work with their eclectic style, where they bring in all of these different influences to make something sound cacophonous in a plain way, not necessarily in a loud way, but cacophonous from a compositional standpoint, where it just did feel very asphyxiating with how they brought everything together to make it seem pretty seamless. And I don't necessarily hear a lot of that on Katatonia, but the licks here still are really catchy. The track itself is one of the catchier Katatonia tracks that I've heard in a while, and I do really appreciate it, and I do highly suggest checking this track out if you've been a fan of Katatonia in the past, or you just want an eclectic style coming through. And that about does it. I really appreciate you guys watching this video. Be sure to let me know, do you want to see this series continue? Do you like the idea of this? Because I'm very, very hyped about continuing it. Be sure to let me know in the comment section below, what were some of your favorite tracks that have dropped recently? What have you been bopping? I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is. My name is J Morris, the Review Guy, and I'm signing off saying farewell.